Welcome, everyone, to another edition of West Virginia Mountaineers Live with the Ryan and Rush Show. Special episode here tonight. Rush is actually out of town, so I'm flying solo tonight. Got a guest lined up from the Ryan and Rush Show as well. We're gonna dive in. We're gonna dive into whoa, what just happened? There we go. We're gonna dive into this slate. Coming off the Texas Tech, we'll recap the Texas Tech win. And then we will look ahead to the TCU Horned Frogs this weekend. Like I said, I'm Ryan McIntyre, at Moneyline_Mac on Twitter. And joining me, who will be, you guys will get to know him from the Ryan and Rush Show as well, is Matthew Daniels from the Ryan and Rush Show. I'm going to bring him in now. Matt, what's going on, man? How are you, man?
Not too bad, Ryan. Thanks for having me on again.
I think your audio is still messed up. I'm going to send you backstage one more time if you want to play with the settings at the bottom. Everybody fire away in the chat your questions for us here tonight on West Virginia Mountaineer Live, edition number 74. And just a reminder that the Wolfman Call is live every Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6, so go check him out. But I'm going to dive right into this Texas Tech victory. Takeaways from that game. I think the main takeaway I got from that big Mountaineer win over the Texas Tech Red Raiders is that that's a game in the first 4 years of the Neil Brown era that they lose every time. You there, Matt?
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Am I better now?
You're still coming in weird, so we'll try again here in a little bit. Gotta love technology. So let's dive into the Mountaineers. 20-13, ugly game. Those that survived that game. I mean, it was rainy, it was ugly. The Mountaineers couldn't pass for more than 100 yards. Just pulling up the box score. Nico passed for 78 yards. Now, I will say some key drops did not help Nico at all. Devin Carter had a rough day. The receivers had a rough day. I know it was wet, but they got to be better on Saturday. They were able to establish a running game, I think, a solid rate there in the first half, going for 42 carries for 157 in total in the game. But, I mean, they had 100 yards of on the ground in the first half, but then kind of hit a wall there in the second half. Texas Tech was loading the box multiple times. And basically told Nico and Neil Brown, you got to beat us through the air. And the Mountaineers were able to hold on. They got a big drive late when Texas Tech cut the lead to 13-10 early in the fourth quarter. Nico was able to maneuver, make some big throws before hooking up with Cole Taylor for the big touchdown to make it a 20-10 win, and then eventually hold on with the goal line stand. Defensively, game balls. I mean, that's where you look why they were able to hold on for a win like this. Trey Latham was awesome. Beanie Bishop was good once again. Lee Capogna was good. Aubrey Burks, Anthony Wilson. But a guy that really stood out to me was Marcus Floyd. I thought he was flying around in the backfield from the safety position. Thought he was awesome. And I think this defense has gotten better and better each and every week from the Penn State game. And I think we talked about it too. I thought it was a blessing in disguise playing a team like Penn State right off the bat. I think you could make the argument that Penn State's the best team in the country so far. We saw what they did to Iowa Saturday night in Happy Valley. Iowa didn't get 100 yards of offense for the entire game, 75 yards. I think they only had 4 or 5 first downs for the entire game. No, that's not a typo. So, yeah, I mean, playing Penn State, obviously, then you get Duquesne, so we were 1-1. And then we got Pitt in the backyard brawl, and we knew what that game meant to this fan base, and we were able to grind that one out. And everybody just kept saying over and over again, this is going to be a letdown spot off the Pitt win. Neil Brown 0-4 against Texas Tech, but not this team. Not this team. This team's different compared to the first 4 years, in my opinion. This team is tougher. They got an identity. They're able to run the ball even against these loaded boxes, and the defense is much improved. And I think you keep seeing it week in and week out. The team keeps getting better and better. So And they're going to have their hands full on Saturday night. This will be the best offensive team, probably other than Penn State, that we played in the TCU Horned Frogs. But overall, just taken away from that win, just an overall gut check win. It wasn't pretty, and we knew it was not going to be pretty, especially with the way that the weather was and the spot it was off the pit win, the emotional win again in front of that crowd. And I thought the crowd was pretty good for the most part. I know some people were kind of ticked off that it wasn't a sellout, but I mean, the weather was bad. Those that stayed were really loud. You could hear that through the TV, ESPN Plus. If your ESPN Plus wasn't buffered, I know a lot of you are not ESPN Plus fans. So, but yeah, I mean, 20-13 win, 3-1, 3-0 homestand, first 3-game winning streak for Neil Brown in his 5 years. It's also the first time since the Army Bowl game, the Liberty Bowl game, that we've been 2 games over 500. So overall, I mean, if you'd said we'd be 3-1 at this point, headed into TCU, we all would have signed up for that. So teams in a good position, put themselves in a position. Now it's time to hit the road. And I think the narrative continues that this Big 12 is very wide open. Texas and Oklahoma, I guess you would say, probably have separated themselves a little bit from a talent standpoint, from a resume standpoint so far. But after that, man, this thing's wide open. Texas Tech was supposed to be the national dark horse. They're 1-3. Baylor was supposed to be another dark horse. They're 1-3, and they both have injuries at the quarterback position. Oklahoma State usually is good. They're not very good at all this year, 2-2, and they got big issues at the quarterback position. And I mean, just keep looking along. I mean, UCF, they looked really good, but they're injured at the quarterback position as well with John Rhys Plumlee. Kansas, I would say Kansas and KC probably are 3-4, but they both, I mean, Kansas is going to get the battle tested this week. They go to Austin in a game where it's kind of a prove-it game for the Kansas Jayhawks going down to Austin. Jalen Daniels is as good as anybody in the league at the quarterback position. Will Howard is banged up for K-State, but they continue to win. At TCU's the other team that's kind of been a wild card, where everybody remembers the opener against Colorado and Dion. Kind of got embarrassed there, but quietly since then they've won 3 in a row over Houston, SMU, and Nichols, and they were really dominant and all that. And we'll preview this TCU Horned Frogs on this episode and dive into where we think this game is going to be won and what the matchup, the line of scrimmage, and how the Mountaineers get to 4-1, shock the college football world once again. I mean, they're 13-point underdog, 12-point underdogs for a reason. Nobody's given them much of a chance. But, I mean, this league's wide open. Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and UCF, the newcomers, up and down. UCF probably the strongest out of them. But, yeah, I mean, this league continues to be wide open, and West Virginia's got one of the more favorable schedules, not drawing 3 out of the top 4, in my opinion. So the path is there. Saturday's a huge spot. There's no doubt about that. Let's try Matt one more time. Matt, hopefully you got your audio working now. You still got the buffer. It may not be meant to be tonight, man.
I guess not. Should I try like my laptop mic? Do you think that would be better?
Yeah, try your laptop.
All right.
Yeah, try the laptop. I bet you that's better. So we'll get Matt back on whenever he gets a chance, and then we'll dive into his thoughts on these TCU Horned Frogs. While Matt gets his laptop ready, why don't you guys fire up some questions in the chat, do a little Q&A before we dive into these TCU Horned Frogs. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. I said my face was too big on the screen. I'll give my initial thoughts on TCU right now. So TCU, kind of touch on it. Started the year 0-1. Kind of got shocked. Got punched in the mouth by Dion, the hype, Colorado, Shedeur Sanders. I mean, they took the college football by storm. I think TCU was overlooking them a little bit. You really look at it. Since then, 41-6 over Nichols, 36-13 over Houston, 34-17 over the SMU Mustangs in the Iron Skillet Bowl, arguably the final Iron Skillet Bowl until they agree to play again. But they've been able to really run the football. I think one of the big questions was how were they going to replace Max Duggan with Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris was the starter last year. These TCU Horned Frogs, yes, were in the national championship behind Max Duggan, behind Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver, behind Keontae Miller, who's now with the New Orleans Saints. So they had NFL guys. They had to replace these guys. But it all started at the quarterback position. All eyes were on the quarterback position because Chandler Morris was the starter, got injured in that first game the year before against the Colorado Buffaloes. Had a rough start, man. Threw 2 bad interceptions against the Colorado Buffaloes, but ever since then he's rallied. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. Been really good, but I would argue that one of the reasons why he's been so good is the running game led by Amani Bailey. Amani Bailey, he's averaging 6 yards a carry. So you kind of look at these two teams just looking ahead to Saturday. Both teams want to run the football. They're not going to make any mistake about it. TCU's actually averaging more yards a game on the ground than West Virginia, and that's West Virginia's identity. So, I mean, it's pretty simple here. The game is going to be won in the trenches. So, I mean, you got Amani Bailey at the wide receiver position. It's kind of more by committee this year. It's not so much Quentin Johnson, Richardson, Thompson, Robinson. They're kind of spreading it out. They also had an offensive coordinator change last year. Lincoln Riley's brother, who's now at Clemson on Saturday. You guys saw him call the RPO on 3rd and 1. That it resulted in 4th and 2, but he was great last year. In comes Art Brileson, who's now the offensive coordinator. So more of a balanced attack from this TCU offense. The main thing that I would say watching TCU, always under Sonny Dykes, and by the way, Sonny Dykes is in his 2nd year, took him to the national championship before they got drilled by Georgia, but overall a really successful first year, 13-2, won the Big 12 regular season, runner up in the Big 12 championship. They're fast, good spacing on the perimeter, and they're going to make you make tackles in space. A little bit of air raid concept. Sonny Dykes is a Mike Leach guy, so you're going to get a little bit of air raid. They want to play fast. They want to get you in one-on-one battles because they think they got better players than you. So tackling for this defense is going to be pivotal. This is going to be the best offense since Penn State that they played. But on the other side, this is also the best defense that the TCU Horned Frogs have faced all year. Colorado doesn't play any defense. I think we've all seen that the last couple of weeks. SMU, limited defensively, kind of on the finesse side. Dana, I mean, we all know Dana from his time here. He's not known exactly for his defense. He's also an air raid guy, Mike Leach guy. So, I mean, it's kind of a contrasted styles. They want to go fast, fast, fast. We want to drag it in the mud. We want to punch him in the mouth and run the football. Shout out to the chat, by the way. Kelsey makes a good point. I love how this team can just punch you in the mouth and play bully football. I haven't had a team like that in a long time that feels good playing bully ball for a change. Completely agree. I completely agree. And we touched on this in the preseason with those veterans up front, Frazier, Remack, Milam, Nestor. I mean, Yates, those guys are physical, man. They've been through the trenches, and they in the past I feel like under the Neil Brown the first 4 years we struggled with the identity. That is the opposite of this team. This team won that game on Saturday because they have an identity of toughness and running the football and playing good defense. And that's exactly how they won that game. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty against Pitt either, but they found a way to win a football game, a hard football game against a talented team that was preseason top 4 in this league. So much for that crowd that said we were going to go 2-10. We've already hit the over on that. Brian in the chat, staff has to integrate more diversification, like the big terminology there, Brian. Scheme, run, pass, but also skill sets utilized. They must get more speed on the field. White, Polk, Gallagher, Horton, Ray, Clement must produce. Completely agree. Wide receivers got to step up, man. There's no doubt about it. Neil said that he's going to cut down that room a little bit. Obviously, Clement was good against Duquesne. I think Carter's going to bounce back, man. He's played high-level ball at NC State. His grandmother died past week, so rough week for him. I think he'll bounce back. Yeah, we got to get some stuff from Polk. I mean, Gallagher and Ray, they're young bucks, but I think they're going to come along. I just think they got to step up, man. And maybe it was the weather a little bit, but I mean, I think that's a pretty soft excuse, to be honest. But there will be no weather on Saturday night. It's going to be high 80s in Texas. It's going to be warm. If it's good weather for the skill guys on Saturday, so they need to give this offense another element because we're seeing it. This offense is going against 8-man boxes from here on out. And I mean, any defensive coordinator that doesn't load the box, honestly, I don't know, probably shouldn't have a job. So, Matt, let's try you one more time, bringing you back. See if the laptop worked better. Where'd you go?
How we sounding?
Oh, there he is. Matt Daniels is
better.
back.
Okay,
there you go.
great.
Yeah, you're on.
That was pretty embarrassing, man.
I know you sounded like Yoda or something. I was like, what's going on right now?
That's wild,
you sounded like a robot. But everybody, welcome back to West Virginia Mountaineers Live, part of the voice of college football. Matthew Daniels, part of the Ryan and Rush Show family. Matt, what's going on, man? 3-1, just like we drew it up, right?
Oh, exactly. I mean, definitely surpassing my expectations a little bit. I definitely thought that we could be 3-1 at this point in the season, but I just think the way, that we have won these games, it's surprising for sure. It feels good to, that's 3 Saturdays in a row where, we're not depressed, and back-to-back really good victories. I think we're in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, I like to call them Victory Mondays. And I mean, basketball schedule came out this week, and it was the first time in a while where basketball comes out and it's not like, oh, thank God, because football's 1-3 or 2-4 or whatever a record is. So good to be excited for basketball, but still optimistic for football. You mentioned it, man. I mean, finding ways to win ugly. I think you embrace that. Embrace your culture. Oh, yeah. I think that relates to the West Virginia crowd, West Virginia mentality, underdog role. And I let off the show. That team under Neil Brown loses that game every time in the first 4 years. There's no way they would have won that game because they weren't tough enough. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, in past years, we might have controlled that game a little bit, but we would have found a way to lose. And, last week we found a way to win. It was very ugly. But, I think that is a really important progression in Neil Brown's career here, finally finding ways to win ugly football games.
Yeah, and I mean, this league's wide open. Texas, Oklahoma seem to be the favorites, but we've seen this over and over. Look ahead spots, let down spots, injuries. It's a 9-game gauntlet. It's a 9-game war. So we're only through round 1. So, and it's going to be. I'm excited for Saturday because nobody's giving us a shot once again. 12-point underdogs. I mean, kind of reminds me of the Texas Tech line being a 6-point underdog at home against a wounded Texas Tech team. I just think nobody believes in this team, which me personally, I prefer. I don't like being hyped up. So I think it's another good spot. What do you think of these Horned Frogs early? Obviously, they laid an egg against Colorado. Everybody saw that game, but quietly since then, they've won 3 straight.
Right. Yeah. After the Colorado game, they seem to be playing a little bit more like we thought they would at the beginning of the season. Offensively, they look really sharp. They can run the football very well, which could be a little bit concerning for us because, last Saturday it seemed like, later in the game we were getting gashed in the run a little bit. But no, I mean, they're a great offensive team. Their defense still needs some work, but I mean, I don't think that they're unbeatable. I certainly don't see us as, almost 2 touchdown underdogs.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I will say, trying to dissect that line a little bit. I know this isn't exactly the gambling shows, over-unders and all that. We have that over at the College Experience Big 12, so go check out that. I think they don't think Garrett Green's going to play. And we could talk quarterback right now. Nico did his job. It wasn't all pretty, but he also didn't get a lot of help from the wide receivers. Multiple drops. He kind of got that early interception out of the way. I like to call it for you golfers out there, a mulligan off the first tee, breakfast ball. Got it out of his system, and then he settled in, moved on. So, I think I thought he was solid for the most part. I wish we had helped them out a little bit more down the stretch. I know they said that they were stacking the box, but I also prefer late in the games rather than taking shots deep. I like to run the ball to get it to a third and manageable, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, maybe even a 3rd and 3, where you can open up the playbook a little bit more rather than if it's incomplete on 1st and 10, then you basically got to throw the ball 3 straight times. So, what did you think of that last sequence coming down the stretch when we went 3 straight passes with 4 minutes? I just think, man, when your identity is your offensive line, you got to choke out that game. You got to run the football right down their throat. You got to find a way to impose your will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seemed like you're getting a little cute. I mean, I get that we were stacking the box, yeah, but there's other ways to have success offensively when they are stacking the box. I do agree. Stick to your identity, especially late in the football game when it's worked the entire time. For sure. I stick with the identity.
And the identity is the ground attack. And I mean, I'll tell you one of the most underrated aspects that I don't think many people saw. Nico's very mobile back there. He's not Garrett Green, obviously. Garrett Green's a gamer, tough kid, going to fight for extra yards. He's quick. But Nico's no stiff back there. Nico, I mean, almost rushes for 80 yards. I think they saw something in that Wyoming game when Peasley was able to rush for almost 100 yards as well. So maybe some RPOs. I thought the game plan in the first half was great. They were able to establish the run, then some of that misdirection stuff, get the tight ends involved with Cole Taylor. Cole Taylor's been huge, man. He's their best. He's their best receiver, best option by far. What's your take on just Cole Taylor's emergence in this offense? I mean, big body from LSU, finally getting an opportunity and running with it.
I think it's huge, especially because, we haven't really been throwing the ball down the field very much. And, especially when we get in the red zone, inside the 10-yard line, you can run him on those little flat routes and, he's a big body, get him into the end zone. I think that's huge. I think it's really big, especially when it comes to, Nico gaining confidence. You can get a quick little route to Cole Taylor, have him pick some yards up, or if you really need 6, throw it out there to him. I think that's huge because you don't need to throw him. You don't need to, give him the ball deep over the middle or anything like that. Just give him the ball, high percentage, short yardage stuff. I think that's really big and really important for our offense. And we haven't had a good tight end
in
I'm
years.
trying to think. And
since Wesco.
Yeah, I was going to say since Wesco. So that's really important, especially, like I said, for a team that doesn't really like to take shots downfield very often.
And I agree with Brian in the chat once again. I would like to see some more under center stuff. I think this is a hard-nosed, old-school team. I'd like to see some old Don Nealon formations. Get under there. I mean, you technically probably don't have a fullback, but a backup tight end as a fullback. I mean, lead the way, get a lead blocker, get downhill, get these big backs downhill. CJ Donaldson. We saw it a little bit in Pitt under center with Garrett Green early. I like it. It opens up a little bit of bootleg action, misdirection with these tight ends where you get the defense flowing one way and you RPO it back. And next thing you know, you slip your tight end out. That was really effective against Pitt late in the game, really effective against Texas Tech early in the game. But yeah, I think especially in this game, we got to control the tempo because TCU wants to go up and back, up and back, up and back. And we gotta find a way to drag this thing into the mud like K-State always does against them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are a pretty up-tempo team, and I thought we handled that pretty well last week against Texas Tech. They were very up-tempo as well. I feel like a little bit later in the game we got a little tired. But yeah, no, I mean, I just think that if we can handle that tempo, their offensive tempo, continue to make some plays in the secondary. We might have been out of position a couple of times last week, but I think the most important thing was that we still made plays on the ball. So yeah, I mean, I think if we weather that tempo, we might have a really good shot.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Garrett Green. Me personally, I know Nico's been great. This has been great for his progression. I would rather have Garrett Green out there. The veteran experience. He's played in bigger games. I know Nico came in and did a great job in relief, but if you're making me choose, I definitely want Garrett Green. But I don't want Garrett Green if he's compromised. Because what makes Garrett Green so effective is his legs. And if he doesn't have his legs, he's not Garrett Green, who we love and have enjoyed pulling for over these last couple of years. Transitioning over back to TCU, what's a matchup you're looking at in this game that concerns you without how good TCU is?
I think that they have been very good against the run. I think their average opponents are averaging like 2.2 against them. So their front seven's a little bit concerning. But again, our offensive line, I think we all would say this, but I think our offensive line is the best in the conference, one of the best in the country. I think they match up pretty well against anybody. So a lot of teams haven't been very successful, running against them so far this year, but so it worries me a little bit. But I still think that that unit is talented enough and tough enough to offset that a little bit.
Completely agree. They've been good. They've been stout against the run, and they've been good running the football. Their lead back Amani Bailey talked about it earlier, averaging 6 yards a carry as a team. They've got over 800 yards on the season just in 4 games, so over 200 yards a pop on the ground. They kind of gash Houston late, they gash SMU late, big chunk plays. But a lot of what they get out of the ground is that hurry up stuff where they get a first down, they get the line of the ball, you're not set, and then they get a big chunk play. So I think it's pivotal. You got to tackle in space, man. You got to find a way to keep them from getting first downs, because that's when their tempo just keeps picking up and up and up. And I do agree. I'm concerned about us stopping the run because of what I saw at Texas Tech late against Pitt early, when Pitt kind of was able to just run the ball right down our throat until we made some adjustments. But I think the staff, they've been able to make the necessary adjustments, especially on the defensive side of the football, holding Pitt to 7, holding Texas Tech to 13. And honestly, I thought the front 7 played pretty well at Penn State. We dropped a couple interceptions from Beanie that I thought could have changed the momentum of the game. And also, back to Texas Tech, how many times have we won a game in the past where we lose a turnover battle by 2?
Definitely not in the Neil Brown era. That's all I know.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Main keys to victory for you headed into this TCU game, Matt.
Yeah, our offensive line, like I talked about earlier, it's going to be really important. It's a really tough battle against their front 7. But, I think continue to set the tone with the run game. But, TCU secondary is pretty weak. I would really like to see us, I had that key against Pitt. I would like to see us throw the ball downfield a little bit more. The last 2 games, I don't know. I don't know how many times Nico threw the ball last week. But we haven't thrown the ball much at all. And I'm not expecting us to, but I would like to see us take some more shots downfield for sure, just because, that secondary of TCU's is not great. We saw Shedeur Sanders threw for 500 plus against them.
Yeah.
And obviously Nico's no Shedeur Sanders, but I would like to see, us try to utilize that a little bit more. And it might open up the run game for us even more as well if we can, successfully take some shots downfield.
I agree. And Kelsey asks, how much do you think being picked 14th in the league has been a motivational factor? It's everywhere. It was it was kind of embarrassing being picked 14th, to be honest. We joked about like, oh, this is motivation, but at the same time, it was like, this is not a 14th place program. This is a proud program, proud tradition. We saw it, that pick game on a national stage, and reminded people how good this fan base is and where this program used to be and can be once again if get things going back in the right direction. So it's definitely a motivation factor. It's they say 14 every other sentence. So they will not be finishing 14th. I can guarantee you that. So that's a good start. That's the first checkbox. Never want to be preseason picked there ever again. I think there's going to be plays in the secondary against this TCU secondary. SMU had big chunk plays. SMU stalled in the red zone. TCU did a good job holding up in the red zone, but Colorado lit them up. I know we don't have Deion's son Shador as our quarterback, but I mean there's holes on that defense. I know they've been better lately, but there still is holes on the back end. But I also think we're able to run the ball. They have not seen an offensive line like this. They have not seen a defensive line like this. This is the best team by far in the trenches that they've played. So I think when you're watching that game on Saturday night early on, just watch those linemen, see who's getting the push early and often. And I think that's going to dictate who's going to win that game. You got a score prediction, Matt?
I don't want to pick against West Virginia. It's a worrisome game for sure. What I'm looking for is if we just go in there and compete, not get blown out. If we keep that a game late into the fourth quarter, I think that would not necessarily a win, but I think that would be really important because it shows that while we might be 3-2, but it would just show that this team is actually way better than everybody thought. I think this is a really big measuring stick. The last two games have been as well. But if we can go in there and compete in that atmosphere, I'll be really happy. I don't really have a prediction, though. If I would probably say right now TCU will win this game. But, yeah, I'm just looking for us to keep it close, keep it competitive. And I would be not necessarily happy with that. Maybe come Tuesday, I'd be a little happier.
Yeah, I mean, this is another measuring stick game. We talked about it. Pitt, you got to get the Pitt monkey off your back. Get that win. We got that win. Then it was Texas Tech. They've beaten us 4 times in the Neil Brown era. Got that win. Finally didn't have a letdown game. Now it's time to get a road win. We haven't got a road win yet. TCU's been a good spot for Neil. Neil's 2-0 in Fort Worth. So I know 0-1 against Sunday, but a game that they almost had last year against their best team of all time, and we were down last year. So we've always played TCU well. This is going to be a close game. It's not going to be a blowout. I'm with you. I think keep that game close, have a shot to win in the fourth quarter, and then see if we can just grind out another tough win on the road. Let's dive before we go. Let's whip around the Big 12 a little bit. We got Friday night. We got BYU and Cincinnati. What have you taken away from those two teams early so far? BYU 3-1, finally lost last week to Kansas. Cincinnati left a lot of plays on the field against Oklahoma, I thought.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the Oklahoma-Cincinnati game. I watched a lot of tape from the Cincinnati-Pitt game, so I know a little bit about them from that. BYU, though, I really don't know what to think of them. They did lose to Kansas, but like you said earlier in the show, Kansas top 4 team in the conference. BYU has a really impressive win at Arkansas. I'm trying to think of a non-conference Big 12 win that was impressive as that.
Just Texas.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Obviously, I missed that one.
It's an SEC game. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah. Slovis has been playing really well for them. I would probably take BYU because, Cincinnati beat Pitt, but we're starting to see Pitt's true colors. Like, they're legitimately just not a great team. I still think Cincinnati could probably finish very near the bottom of that of our conference. I would probably take BYU in that game.
I think I lean with you too. BYU really tough at home. Provo, altitude, first Big 12 home opener. Cincinnati was rocking on Saturday for that Oklahoma game. Now BYU will be rocking. Tough spot for Cincinnati, the Bearcats with Emory Jones going out there. We got an interesting one here. We got Baylor, who's been as bad as anybody, going down to the bounce house for another Big 12 opener, playing UCF. I think Plumlee will still be out in this one, but I thought that they went to Kansas State, and that's a tough spot. For the most part, I actually thought that Timmy McClain did a good job running that offense under Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, they didn't look bad. First road Big 12 game, you can't really expect that much, especially in an environment like that.
K-State. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. They haven't been bad. I still think that they're going to be, a top half Big 12 team, especially, once I get that quarterback back. But, he looked good on Saturday as well. In terms of, I just completely forgot who they're playing. Kansas State. We were just talking. Who are they playing?
Who, UCF? They're playing
Oh,
Baylor. So
Baylor.
I
They're
mean,
playing Baylor. I don't know why. Yeah,
Baylor's been a dumpster fire.
Baylor's been very bad.
Yeah.
It's funny we keep talking about this, but I keep thinking of more teams that might finish 14th that look way. I just don't know. Baylor could finish last. Cincinnati could very easily finish last. I just don't really know. Like we talked about when I was on here last, this league is just going to eat itself alive this year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams that are not bad are going to have a way worse record than they probably should. A lot of teams that are worse than they're, that are pretty bad will end up having a pretty solid record. I'm just really interested to see how the rest of the season, shakes out.
Yeah, me too. Another one that's going to be an interesting one. Our former head coach, Dana Holgorsen, going back to Lubbock, where he has some roots there, working for Mike Leach. Texas Tech's really banged up. A common theme here, quarterback position. You got Tyler Shuck, obviously. Everybody saw that injury. Hopefully he heals up. Morden is banged up, apparently bad after that West Virginia game. We just talked about Plumlee at UCF. Will Howard at K-State's day to day. I mean, he ended up playing, but he was banged up all week. Garrett Green, obviously, is injured for us. It's kind of Shapen at Baylor is banged up. It's been an injury bug in this Big 12 so far. But anyway, I mean, you got Houston 2-2 early, wins over UTSA and Sam Houston. Dana's always weird as an underdog. He always will pop up and pull some shenanigans out. And you got to be thinking that he's licking his chops, especially with Donovan Smith, the quarterback for Houston, going to Lubbock here.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It does seem like the kind of spot that Dana wins this game. He, I don't want to say he probably shouldn't because, like you said, that Texas Tech team is really banged up. But I still think they're a good team.
Up, yeah.
They have a really good run game, and they're up tempo, so they can give that defense a lot of problems. I just don't know about Houston, man. Like they've showed us this year, they're not a good team at all. Losing to Rice, I don't know. Dana could pull that win out, and this is in Lubbock on Mike Leach's recognition day, right?
I believe so. So maybe that gets Dana going.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, Dana's a Leach guy.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. That one seems like a toss up to me.
I'll tell you another interesting spot here in the final two games other than West Virginia TCU. So we got Red River Shootout, the final one of the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma next week. Both got some weird spots here because Texas got Kansas coming in. Kansas obviously beat them 2 years ago, their only win. Jalen Daniels was a freshman. Kind of feels like Kansas, this is kind of their moment where, hey, we can really on a national stage potentially prove that we're a real program now. We're not just a basketball program. Obviously, Texas, third in the country, but Kansas is ranked quietly. Kansas undefeated, ranked 24th. What do you think of this matchup, man? You got star power in this matchup.
I think that's going to be a really fun game. Texas clearly the better team. I think that they should probably handle Kansas, but Kansas, they're going to Texas should compete, but Texas should handle them, but Kansas is going to compete in that game. I think, they just had so much offensive firepower. And it does seem like a big classic Texas letdown spot as well. You said, right before the Red River rivalry. I don't know. Do you know what the spread is on that game?
16.5. I think that's too many.
16.5. I think I would take Kansas to cover that. I think Texas would probably pull away late because it is a bit of a revenge spot for them, trying to avenge that humiliating loss a couple years ago in Austin. I would take Kansas to cover, but Texas should pull away for sure.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I go Kansas. I can tell you that.
I'll be rooting for Kansas for sure.
But. Oh yeah, it's the only time I'll ever say those words. Now, I will not say those words in basketball season. No. Another look ahead spot. Oklahoma's looked good. They played a really soft non-con. They looked okay against Cincinnati. More Cincinnati self-destructing, in my opinion. Got Iowa State, who's always been a kryptonite of theirs. Matt Campbell's always good against Oklahoma. Oklahoma has dropped this exact game to Iowa State, the game before Red River Shootout, before in the past. Any chance of Cyclones? You giving the Cyclones any chance of going into Norman?
I'm really not. Iowa State they have been brutal this year.
They did look better last week.
Who did they play last week again?
They beat Oklahoma State, and Rocco Beck's quietly looking better. But yeah, early on they were a dumpster fire because of the gambling scandal.
Right.
Yeah.
They're starting. So it seems like they're starting to find their footing a little bit more. I just don't see how they can go into Norman and compete. I don't think Oklahoma is like a world beater or anything, but I'm not seeing it.
I think that's going to be quietly the surprise tight game. I think Oklahoma's going to have their hands full on Saturday. I think Texas is going to have their hands full. I think this is this league's going to keep getting tighter and tighter. This league is wide open. Do you still? I know when we power ranked our teams a couple weeks ago, is your top 4 probably as of now still Texas, Oklahoma, and the 2 Kansas schools? If you had to pick today, or do you throw TCU in there?
I would have TCU at 5, obviously depending on what happens this week. But yeah, that top 4 sounds right. Hey, I mean, we win a couple more games. We win on Saturday, and we could sneak into that top 5 pretty easily.
Well, I was just about to say, I would say we're probably 6, right after TCU. I mean, you can make the argument for Texas Tech, but we just beat them, and they're really banged up. They're not coming back. UCF, if they were healthy, maybe with Plumlee, but he's not healthy. Oklahoma State's a dumpster this year. Iowa State's kind of a dumpster. The newcomers, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, no. Baylor has been atrocious. So I think we are 6. I mean, it's crazy. Like you said, preseason 14. Now you probably say 6. And we talked about it last week was, hey, finally get to 1-0 in Big 12 play. Check mark. You win this game at TCU as a double-digit underdog, then you can legitimately start thinking this team has a chance to get to Dallas and get to the Big 12 championship. And I know we still have 7 games after that, but you don't got to play Texas. You don't have to play K-State, and you don't have to play Kansas. You're playing all those teams at the tail end that we just said are the dumpster fire teams. And obviously that's why you play the games. But you win this one at TCU, you have the tiebreaker over them. And you put yourself in a position going down the stretch to play for a championship. And that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of teams that I'm not trying to be a homer, but like looking at the schedule, we match up very well against a lot of these teams. Like there's a couple in there that, are toss-ups or probably a loss. But just thinking, we have TCU this week, and then we go to Houston, and then we have – who do we have after that? We have Baylor.
No, Baylor's the last game of the year.
Baylor's the last game of the year.
After Houston, we got Oklahoma State at home. That's homecoming. Then we go to the Bounce House at UCF. Then we come back home. We play BYU at home. Then we go to Oklahoma. Then senior night against Cincinnati. And then finish at Baylor. Like I said, man, that schedule – that's as good a schedule as you're ever going to get. So the path to 8 wins is there easily, especially because you took care of your first 3 home games. That's what we said all preseason long. Take care of your first 3 home games. Check mark. They did that. They did the hard part. Now it's time to go get one on the road, man. Time to get one on the road and get that monkey off the back and get that first road win. And TCU is a great spot. That place is not going to be rocking. I mean, it's a good crowd, but it's 40,000 compared to whatever it is at Penn State, 110 or crazy whiteout, people yelling and screaming, waving those towels, shirtless. I mean, Penn State's a different animal than TCU.
Yeah, that's why that week 1 game was just so big. Not from only like a game standpoint, but just the fact that we were able to be in an atmosphere like that. And, of course we lost, but you got experience early in the season playing in an environment like that. And now when we go to the Bounce House, we play in Norman, we play at TCU this weekend.
You're not going to be phased.
They're battle tested. I think that, they're not going to be phased by any crowd that they see for the rest of this year. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. I think this is the game where everybody's going to walk away and be like, I'm glad we played Penn State week 1 because it made our guys battle. If we can control the line of scrimmage against Penn State, we ran on Penn State, and Penn State's got NFL guys. We should be able to run the ball against TCU. I don't care that they've stopped the run. They haven't faced an offensive line like this. So like I
I
said,
agree.
look at the game in the trenches. I think the Mountaineers are going to shock the world. I actually am giving away my hand. I know we picked the games on Thursday. Getting ready to hop on a TCU show later tonight, and I'm going to go shock their world here when I pick the Mountaineers, because I'm sure they're thinking that they're just going to walk in and it's going to be the same old Mountaineers. I don't think so, man. I think Saturday night, Mountaineers have a real good shot. I just want to keep that thing close in the fourth and find a way to win close games, because that's one thing. TCU hasn't won a close game yet. They lost a close game. We're used to playing close games uncomfortable, and that's another sign of a good team, in my opinion, that keeps getting better and better. Flashing a couple predictions. Timothy's got 24-21 Mountaineers. Kelsey, 17-13 Mountaineers. Timothy, please hit the like button. Yes, and subscribe to the Voice of College Football. Make sure you go subscribe to the Ryan and Russ show, too. We're here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Basketball season's around the corner, too. We got basketball coverage all season long. We're doing our preseason previews. I got some of the members of the coaching staff coming on. Had Coach Don Nealon on earlier in the summer, so that was a good discussion. Everybody loves Coach Don Nealon. Had Ren Baker on last month. We got some heavy hitters in the future, so looking forward to what we got over there. And then obviously we always got good guests over here. We had the Wolfman on last week. Mark Rogers doing great work over at the main station. Shout out to Joey Foster, who works behind the scenes over here at the West Virginia Live. Matt, before we get out of here, any final thoughts? Just put a bow on this discussion. Thoughts going into Saturday night, man?
I'll tell you,
going into Saturday night. Yeah,
I'm just really excited to have a chance, like, at having a good season. Like, the last couple of years, our season has seemed like it had been over very quickly.
Already over at this point.
This year, we're 3-1. We have 2 wins against Power 5 teams. And it feels really good going into a game like this on Saturday. I know we're pretty big underdogs, but I believe that we have a chance. And I think if you really look at this game, you would also say that we have a chance. It's just exciting knowing that, if we win this game on Saturday, things should really start rolling. We legitimately could be playing in Dallas. And I'm an optimist, but it's really great to watch a W football team and know that they actually have a chance to do something really great.
Agreed. Yeah, it's prime time, man. It's kind of a week night slate too, so gonna get a lot of eyes on this game. I kind of was looking at what the primetime game is this week. I think it's Alabama, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's not very good this year, so I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this game. Pulling up the schedule real quick before we get out of here. Duke Notre Dame. I mean, I know Notre Dame's Notre Dame, and they're going to draw, but I mean, people are going to have eyes on this game. This is a great opportunity. I agree, man. This great opportunity to make a statement. Let's go over in the chat real quick before we get out of here. What's going on with the Herd kid? What kid are you talking about? Horton from Marshall? Well, as for the quarterback, I don't know. I think it's too early to tell, man. If Garrett's there, Garrett's going to start. Garrett's played in Happy Valley. He's more battle tested. He's a veteran. You're going to need the veteran presence in a game like this. But if he's not fully healthy, they're going to play Nico and then just have Garrett take the reins back over at the bye week. Unless Nico lights it up. Kelsey's got a good one here. Prediction, we get to 5-1 and get Dana fired. That would be ironic. My bold prediction was 4-1. I got laughed at by a lot of people. I got one more win to go. So that's it for us, man. We're going to sign off here. We'll be back next Wednesday night. Go over to the Ryan and Russ show. Make sure you subscribe there tomorrow. Live every Monday through Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern sharp. So get off work, come have a cocktail, come have a cold beer, and start your happy hour with us as soon as you get off work. And then we'll be talking Mountaineers every Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock. And today we did Behind Enemy Lines with JD Sailors from the Lufton Drinking Club. I'm going on there later tonight to talk a little Mountaineers from our side, go behind their enemy lines. But yeah, no, come join us tomorrow. We'll give out our keys of victory and final predictions. Hint, hint, keys of victory on how the Mountaineers get it done. Let's get another win, everybody. Let's have another victory, our 4th straight victory next Monday. And let's go Mountaineers.